Well, I want to welcome everybody to our first Fireside chat. These meetings allow our members to ask questions and, talk to some of the INACSL officers and really kind of see what INACSL has to offer. Fireside chats right now are going to be offered every other month, year round, and each meeting will cover resources and ways that you can get involved with INACSL, highlighting different committees and special interest groups. So if you have any questions at any time during our conversation, feel free to use the Q&A feature or comment in the chat box, and our staff will make sure that all your questions are answered. If you should have any technical difficulties, please email inaxlinfo@inaxl.org. So that's inaxlinfo@inaxl.org. So my name is Hollis Caswell, and I am the chair of the membership committee. I joined INACSL back in 2017, and really I didn't know the extent of all the resources that this community had to offer. So I learned as I went along through networking and exploring the website. But hopefully this fireside chat will help some of you navigate a bit better and be able to use all that INACSL has to offer you as a simulationist. So I'd like to go around the campfire and have everybody introduce themselves, provide a little bit of insight on how you started with INACSL and what benefits you currently get from your enrollment in the association. Those of you watching, I know there's a bunch of you watching, please introduce yourselves in the chat and tell us where you're joining from, because I always like to see where everybody is from. So please do that. And then I'd just like to start with our president, our INACSL president, Desiree Diaz. If you would like to open up the chat and let us know a little bit about yourself and how you started in INACSL and what benefits that this program has to offer, that'd be great.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your snowy day. And I think the majority of the US is under some kind of weather pattern. And I'm sure that extends overseas as well, because we are all connected. But thank you for popping on. And Hollis, you said, when do we get started? I think when I go back, it was in 07. So 2007 is when I became a member, and it was through the membership committee, actually. And one of my good friends, who remains a good friend. So what is that? Almost 20 years later, right? So about 16 years later, just walking by on my first conference ever, I didn't know anyone. And she just pulled me and was like, "Hey, I'm part of the membership committee. Why don't you join?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And, it's just been a great passion, and I will say a friendship, because I feel like the whole organization is my friend. It doesn't matter where you're at or what level of simulation you do. There's someone else who's in that same exact boat. You're never alone. And for me, that's one of the main things I get out of INACSL. It's knowing that a friend is always a phone call away. And if my friend, like a true friend, doesn't know, they have someone who knows. And before you all hopped on, Hollis reminded me or shared with me that one of my former colleagues at a different university from, man, that's like 12 years ago, is good friends with her. I'm like, we are so connected. So it's just great to see that in that community. So that's how I got started and why I'm still here.
Yeah, and INACSL is such a tremendous community of networking and really just kind of getting to know people. I feel like I've grown my network so much since joining INACSL, so that's been really helpful as well. All right, who wants to go next? I can.
I'll go next.
Okay, Beth.
So, I'm sorry, Lori. So I'm Beth Hallmark, and I am a member of the board of INACSL, but I'm also the liaison to the membership committee, and I'm so excited that y'all are here. Alyssa just put in the chat for you to please tell us where you're from. So we'd love for you to put in the chat your name and your location. There they start. Great. I am from Nashville, Tennessee, and I have been a member of INACSL since 2007. And probably some of you were still in high school back then, but that's okay. I'm dating myself, and I got involved in INACSL because I actually, Amy will appreciate this, Amy Daniels, I was asked to be the director of the labs, and I was like, I don't know. And I looked up what simulation was, and I thought, I don't know, plastic dummies, I'm not quite sure. But I went to Hopkins for to Baltimore for a wedding. And then I went to see Terry, what's her name? Lost my brain. Amy,
Debbie Spunt.
Yeah, Debbie. Sorry. I went to see Debbie. My brain just went blank. I went to see Debbie at University of Maryland, and she took me on a tour, and I was hooked. And we had a grant, and I started working in simulation and have been involved since 2007. And what INACSL offers me is exactly what Des said, is just friendship. First of all, we have a little group chat. Some of us do. If you like today, somebody said, hey, do I owe you something? Or am I supposed to be sending you some information about X, Y, and Z? And I'm helping somebody apply for a different fellowship, or helping people with a problem possibly that they maybe have with technology or with operations. Right now we're working on a budget for a new center. So people are just so willing to share in this community. I think simulation wide, it is such a great community. We have friends all over the world, and I hope that if you're not really involved in simulation, that you will come to the conference this summer if you have the opportunity, and reach out to us. We're going to have some stuff for the new members, we hope. So reach out, and we hope to learn more about you personally too. Lori?
Yeah, I'm Lori Greer, and I'm the SIM coordinator at Erlanger Health here in Chattanooga. And probably joined, I think I joined INACSL maybe 2018, about the time that I certified, and had been interested in simulation really probably about the same time that Des and Beth got involved, around 2006, 2007. Had worked as sort of the sim resource person, and then eventually landed here. I think the benefit is, obviously I would emphasize and highlight exactly what they've said, is that connection. The connections that you get from being a part of INACSL, I mean, I don't know that you can find that anywhere else. And I say that being a part of SSIH, and that's an incredible organization too, but I think the like-mindedness that I've found here, and just the nursing focus has been, it's a little bit of a different twist. And I also offer that, I came from an academic sort of setting and then moved to a hospital-based sim, and there's been some learning curve there for me, but I still find that there's such a connection and such a valuable group of people that you can access and that will mentor you and answer questions. And as Beth said, I think simulation, more than so many other areas of nursing or healthcare, people are always open and to share what they have. They don't hoard. They don't require anything of you, really. They just want it to help you get your feet on the ground with it too. So that, plus the conferences, and really a lot of this I think opened up for me once I joined the committees. And so started out on engagement committee that has now morphed into kind of being added to membership. And then there's multiple opportunities within that committee to join subcommittees that will bring you extra connections. So that's kind of my story.
Yeah, and the committees, I don't know what people are thinking, but oftentimes people think I don't want to get involved, it'll take too much time. But honestly, I feel like it really isn't that much time to really volunteer yourself in something like this. And what you get out is way more than what you put in. So I feel like if any of you are thinking about joining a committee, I would strongly suggest that you just do it, because it really isn't probably as much work as you think it might be, and you'll get a lot more back from that. So, Amy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Daniels, and I'm the director of the simulation lab at University of Maryland School of Nursing in Baltimore. And I started with INACSL as actually, I was a teaching assistant when I started, and I was working in the sim lab, and that's when I fell in love. I actually was going to be an OB clinical educator, but I came and loved simulation, and Mary Fay was the director, and she roped me in, and then I became an assistant director and then an interim and director, and I love it. And have been going to INACSL conferences since about 2011. And I think for me, it was very similar to the other stories. I'm not going to say they all took my answers, but they all took my answers. So I value the friendships. I value the camaraderie, the collaboration. I've just made so many colleagues across the states, across the nation, across the world, and learning from so many different perspectives, how there's not just one way to do things. There's multiple ways to do things, and it's all about trying to identify what is it that the learner needs and how can we all get the learner to become the best nurse that they can. But I agree, as far as joining the committees, that's when things started to come together. Even just sitting in on a meeting or learning from someone else about what things are happening. And networking during when you get to go through the different vendors and things like that. So there's just so many different avenues that you can take. And there's always a way to start small and find something that you're interested in, connect with someone, and you'll get hooked and you'll get drawn in, and then you'll never leave.
Yeah, there is something to be said for that. I feel like I came in and I haven't, it's like you still stay and you just kind of move around and do something different. So once you're in, I feel like you're always in, right? So I want to kind of open up the chat. We are here to answer questions for you as well. So this is very informal and we want it to be very open. So if you have any questions that you would like answered, or Alyssa, I'm not sure if they're able to unmic or not, but we would be more than happy to address those questions for you, or answers any questions you may have concerns or whatnot. As part of the membership committee, we're always seeking to make things better for new members. And so I'm curious, any of you new members, and what kind of things you might like to see. We've been working on a bunch of things that hopefully will be coming up in the next few months. And then Desiree too, if there's things that are coming up that you know about that you'd like to share moving forward. I know we got a busy couple months ahead. That would be great as well. So I just want to open up the forum to any questions or any things that you may want to ask of us.
We have a question in the chat. What the difference is between a committee and a SIG.
Mm-hmm.
I put a link to the SIGs in the chat. I don't know if you all can see that. And the committees are more of the work of the organization. So we have several different committees. I don't know if Alyssa, if you can pop a list of the committees in there, because I don't know where that is, but I did pop the SIGs in there. And we have a lot of, we have two new SIGs. One is technology and operations, and one is deans and directors, or directors SIG. And they're both very, very active. I see Rachel on here. Rachel's on both of those, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And there's a lot of information you can gain. The technology SIG, I'm also the board liaison for that. And we're doing some really cool things. And we're going to, the next group, the next Fireside Chat, we're going to have them on here helping answer some questions. And we've got a call out for questions, and we'll have questions for that if you have specific questions from technology. So I think we'd love to hear more questions. And I don't know if people can unmute themselves. I don't know what that looks like, Alyssa, or if you just wanted to put it in the chat.
Yep, I think we are able to unmute attendees if you want to press your microphone button on your Zoom options, and you can ask your question aloud. If you don't feel comfortable asking your question aloud, pop it in the chat, and we'll have our speaker.
She said the chat, the link didn't work for special interest groups. Can you see if you can find it, Alyssa? Because I obviously did something wrong.
Will do.
I feel like I need to give a commercial then for the special interest group I'm the liaison for. I feel like Beth totally did an infomercial there, but I am the special interest group for the advanced practice. So that's the nurse practitioners, CRNAs, nurse midwives, CNSs, educators, pretty much any graduate education. And it's a great group. They are currently working together. Well, they've worked together to submit some abstracts. So we'll have a nice, robust, advanced practice type of sessions, whether they be poster or in person coming up at the conference. So that's pretty exciting to me.
Is Farah on?
I don't see her, Jenny.
If
You
not,
go.
I'm going to do a commercial for my SIG.
Yeah, go.
Okay. So the Dean's Directors and Program Manager SIG is new. This is the first year. I'm the chair of it for this year. Rachel's going to take over for chair for next year. But we put in for a panel presentation in INACSL. And so we'll have a panel presentation on how this SIG came about and what kind of things we address. And we would love for you to join us. It's pretty big already. So we meet once a month. I think it's the last Friday of the month. So there's my commercial.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? And it's a great opportunity to ask anything. This is supposed to be informal and open. And so we really want to hear from you. What kind of things we can answer for you? What kind of things would you like to see?
Kelly Bryant, could you say anything about the conference? I don't know if you want to say anything, or since you're the liaison to the conference.
Hello, everyone. Let me first introduce myself. I'm Kelly Bryant. I have the pleasure of also being on the board of INACSL. And yes, what do I have to say about the conference other than I hope to see all of you there? And registration has opened up. It will be in Raleigh, North Carolina from June. Hold on. Let me make sure I get my dates right. June 12th to help me out, Des, or somebody else.
15th, Saturday the 15th.
Thank you. 12th to the 15th. If you had submitted an abstract, you should have been notified by now. If you have not, please feel free to contact me or any of us on the board, and I can personally look into it. But it's going to be an amazing conference. We have a great lineup of keynote speakers, the presentations. We have a variety of presentations, everything from talking about new technologies to competency-based education, you name it. We will have something for everyone. So I strongly advise this is not a conference you're going to want to miss. So register. There is also open now if you need some financial assistance. There's scholarships that are available. So I will put that in the chat. So I hope you can apply for one of those scholarships. And if you have any questions, again, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'll be here and I can answer the questions in the chat. But I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in June at our conference.
Thank you. Yeah, there are quite a few scholarships. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Anthony Battaglia Scholarship for a second and give a plug to that. The Anthony Battaglia Scholarship is a scholarship that pays for your registration, and it is one that Anthony Battaglia, who is the founder of Pocket Nurse, provides. And I actually am a past recipient. It was one of the first times I got to go to an INACSL conference. So those of you who may be thinking it's, too pricey or my institution won't pay for it or whatnot, it's a great way. You can apply for that right on the Pocket Nurse website. I believe it's pocketnurse.org. And you will find the INACSL Anthony Battaglia Scholarship there. I will tell you that the membership blinds all applicants, and we do a rubric and score it. So it's blinded, and usually the past couple of years it's been between 5 and 6 applicants that get the opportunity to go. We have a luncheon for them when we get to the conference, and they get their picture taken with Anthony Battaglia. So it's a really nice. And we've even added a certificate that you can take home. So it's a really nice opportunity to, just apply for it and see what happens, So that's one of the many scholarships that you can apply for INACSL. The conference, that one will be, I think it's January 30th. It closes. So if you're interested in that, I strongly advise you go to pocketnurse.org and look that one up and apply for it. It doesn't take that long. You have to write an essay, I believe. But really give it a shot. You just never know. I certainly was very surprised when I was one of the recipients way back when. And it really kicked off my whole experience with INACSL. So I strongly encourage everybody to give it a shot and see what happens if you really do need some financial help to get there.
There's a note in the chat. Is there opportunity for CHESI continuing education hours at the conference? Any of those hours should count towards your CHESI certification. You just fill them out and put them in the the documentation system that they have. I don't think we're not having a Chessie review course, are we, for the test? I don't think that's happening. So, but we are doing that. Des, could you speak about endorsement for just a minute? Maybe that might be another good thing to talk about.
Sure. So endorsement, we just closed the cycle, and the people that have gotten endorsed have been notified now, and they'll be recognized at the conference. But endorsement is really looking at best practices in simulation. So that's different than accreditation when it's talking about the entire program, right? So when you look at the 4 pillars, how is your program conducting simulation? Are you doing a structured debrief? Is there professional integrity? So really getting into the pillar of a strong foundation for endorsement. Endorsement is 2 times a year, one in the fall, one in the spring. All cohorts are recognized at the conference. They get a plaque and go up on stage, but it's really demonstrating that, hey, we realize that there's standards of best practices. We not only recognize them, we practice them. So that's sort of that in a nutshell. Is that good enough, Beth, or do you want more in depth?
Oh, that's great. So we
Okay.
we were at pilot school for an endorsement, and I would just say, if you're thinking about doing endorsement, begin to gather your data and put it in a folder with some organization based on the information that you're going to need. So go on and start backtracking, or not backtracking, but keeping your stuff organized, because I think that was the hardest thing for me, was going back and pulling the stuff. We're an accredited center also, so I had a lot of it, but just making sure you're keeping that organized according to the endorsement requirements.
And to your point, Beth, we're both endorsed and accredited here as well. We had the information, but what we require is different. So don't think you can just cut and paste from accreditation, because the lens and the focus of endorsement is what you're actually doing, not just the processes
Right.
and in specific components of that. So it was different and it took some time. I will say that it's not something you can just pull together in a week, like, oh yeah, I've done this, I can do this. You really have to think about what you're giving for your examples and how can you demonstrate that on paper. I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah,
We know we do great, but how on paper?
Yeah, it really focuses on good teaching too, and developing good sims. And I think that's something that we're all really passionate about, is what do our facilitators look like, and making sure that they're trained well. And I think that's a big part of it. Ashley posted something about being involved in the patient safety SIG. I don't know if you want to say anything, Ashley.
I can try. Hi guys, this is Ashley Franklin. Forgive me, I'm in the car, but I'm listening attentively. I've been the liaison to the patient safety SIG for about a year, and Loretta Aller from Kent State University is one of the leaders, and she does a great job of coordinating multiple projects. So I tried to give examples of, last year there were several teams that wrote and vetted scenarios around patient safety events in different nursing specialty areas, and then they distributed those scenarios in the poster session at INACSL electronically through a QR code link. And this year there's some more of that scenario development going on. And also there's a writing team that I've been more closely a part of. It's an interprofessional writing team that's writing a conceptual paper about training scars in simulation, from a EMT, paramedic, and then nursing lens. And the idea basically is that facilitators have to use expert skills to debrief patient safety events in simulation, and also like develop scenarios and help plan simulation prep to avoid training scars that our learners experience. So all these things probably meet once a month. If you haven't ever been to a meeting, you can sign up on our website and they don't cost anything. And I've heard a couple people say, oh yeah, I'm in that one too. So I know people are involved with multiple SIGs if you have multiple areas of interest.
Great. And I just saw that Jennifer posted about the cornerstones of best practice, a great way to look at your program for endorsement. I don't know if, Jennifer, if you feel like you could unmute and just give us a quick blurb on that. Are you online?
Of course.
Oh, thank you.
So the cornerstones of best practice focus on the core 4. It's 4 modules, and each one of the modules takes roughly about an hour and a half to go through. There are CEs available for it. So when you finish the 4 modules, there'll be a capstone webinar that kind of brings it all together. We have some experts in the field as our moderators. Our first capstone webinar, I believe, is going to be early February. So we do have some members that have completed all 4 of the modules. So that's a new resource, just developed last year. And I think somebody can put the link in the chat already. So anyway, take advantage of that, and great information for endorsement.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? I did see in the chat someone asked about a virtual option for the conference. Are we doing that this year? I'm pretty sure we've done that the past years, but do we know if that's going to be an option this year?
Did Kelly pop on?
Yep, I'm right here. No, there will not be a virtual
Not.
option.
Okay.
But stay
Just wanna
tuned.
make
There may
sure.
be something else coming.
Okay, good to know. So if you got to go to Raleigh. Any other questions? These are great questions. Just kind of highlighting all the different things that you can really do with this membership and with this opportunity.
I'd be interested to know how many new members we have on the call. If you're a new member,
Maybe raise
but
their hand, because then
or raise your hand.
yeah, raise your hand,
raise your hand if you're sure. Now I'm dating myself.
No, I know where you're going.
Right? That's still a commercial.
I think.
So we have Jenna, Arlene, Dinsey, I don't know how to say that. Dinsey, I can't pronounce that, sorry.
Brittany, Alana.
Mm-hmm.
We could really date ourselves and be like the Magic Garden when she's like, and I see Densey and Brittany and Alana. I think that was the late 70s.
Yeah.
So
that was even before that, actually. I'm afraid.
I was born in
Romper
72,
Room?
Beth.
That was the romper room.
Romper Room was before
Yeah.
that.
No, not Romper Room. The girls with the long braids and they swung on that tree. The Magic Garden.
I don't remember that. Magic Tree House? No, Magic Garden.
Yeah.
See, this is what you get from INACSL.
So I'm looking to see if I see any more questions. I don't see too many, but I'm glad there's so many new members. We're hoping to have something for you at the conference if you do attend. We're working on that in the membership committee as we speak about how we can increase that opportunity for you at the conference to meet new members and to connect with us and to understand all the things about INACSL for you. So more to come on that, but it's great to see so many new members. I actually, if we don't have any questions,
I see one question in the
Okay,
chat right
great.
now, Hollis. It looks like a bounce off of our Cornerstones discussion from just a minute ago. Is the Cornerstones of best practice different from ISEP? Anyone want to take a stab at that one?
Yes, it is different from ISEP. ISEP, I believe, is 12 modules, and this is a little more focused on the core 4.
Great.
What about Hollis? I don't know if you're getting ready to talk. Maybe we could talk about the standards too after you were getting ready to talk about something, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just, if there wasn't any questions, I was going to have Amy talk about the research fellowship.
Great.
So Amy, would you like to just give a quick information about the research fellowship and the cohort that's coming up, or if it hasn't already closed?
I can I can do that. I'm wondering from a transition perspective, if talking about the standards, because we've been talking a lot about the core four, I feel
Yeah.
like the standards might fit better here. And then I can follow up from
Perfect.
just a smooth transition perspective.
Excellent. Yeah, let's back up and go there.
Ashley's gonna kill me because she's driving, but actually maybe the best one. Who else is on here that might could talk about the standards? I guess Des, since she's driving, maybe you want to.
Sure. So the standards are really our blueprint or our roadmap of best simulation. The beautiful thing of what I personally think that's happening with the standards is its translation into other languages, but not just translation. We are really looking at best practice of translation. So just like there's guidelines for us as we practice whatever discipline we're in, there's a practice for the standards and the standards of translation. So it gets translated and then it gets back translated to make sure we're not missing any of the cultural norms, nuances of the language. So I think that's really special and key of the standards. Now, with our standards, it goes, I believe, everything from nuts to bolts, right? So you start off, there's a pre-brief standard, then there's a standard of how do you debrief, how do you design a simulation, professional integrity, and operations, evaluation. There's 10 of them. They're free. That is another big key factor where INACSL doesn't charge them. They're not just nursing standards of best practice. So if any of you are in the interdisciplinary realm, especially in the clinical side of things where someone might say, oh, those are just nursing standards. They're not. They were influenced, endorsed, had a lens of international, acute, and academic side, as well as other types of simulation informed it. Healthcare simulation isn't the first ones to start simulation. There's navigation and really looking at the body of science. So there are 4 that are under systematic review right now. So really enhancing and creating continual strong science and scientific measures that inform, as Ashley's words, it's a living document. So informing the best practices. The other thing about the healthcare simulation standards of best practice are that they were endorsed by other, I don't want to say agencies, but organizations. So they're endorsed by ASPE, SSH, CSIM, truly recognizing the interprofessional aspect of simulation. I know, well, and so here's a little caveat, if I may, Hollis or Beth, I can't remember who asked me that question. For those of you who are new or can't get buy-in, I use the standards as my ROI. So I went to the sim design standard and said, hey, I need to pilot test this. I need funds. This is the standard of best practice. When you go to a dean or the director of simulation at an acute care setting and say, well, don't you want us to doing best simulation? Many of them aren't going to say no. So I used it sort of as my guide, my recipe book. This is what I need. And it really helped. But again, anytime you say something like that, this is what I need, give them a report back. What did your learners think? What did your investors think about that? And that's what really helped me. Any questions on the standard? Or any of them?
Can I add to that, Desiree?
Sure.
About using them as kind of your reason for buy-in. And because we're always talking about evidence-based practice, this is our evidence base for our practice of simulation and education. So I think, you know, when we look at it, it's not just best practice in some kind of a document. There's evidence supporting all of those best practices and the criterion that go with it.
And I think you're going to start seeing some state boards of nursing doing more recognition of the standards and what you need to have as a simulationist to use simulation to replace clinical. So stay tuned to watch things for things like that, because it's important that we as simulationists really support the standards and make sure that we are doing high quality simulation. And the standards are really the only way to do that, is to make sure you're using them.
And not only state boards of nursing, sorry, Beth, but also accrediting bodies. So AACN and NLN, while they don't ask for them now, I expect that that's coming down the pike very, very soon, that when they do accreditation of nursing programs and their simulation in there, they're going to ask for some of those, but how do you align with best practices when you are integrating simulation across your curriculum?
Yeah, that's a great point, Amy. I don't know if anybody on the call is from Virginia, but in Tennessee, if we send somebody to Virginia to take boards, then they require us, if we're using simulation to replace clinical, they require us to document the training of our facilitators, of how we piloted the sims, how we developed them, all those things, and how we implement the standards in our program. So I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that. I think you're exactly right, Amy.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Having gone through a recent CCNE certification, they did actually speak with me about those things. So I can definitely concur with that. So, what other questions do you all have? Like I said, we're here for you. We'd love to answer any questions you have. You have our full attention today. It's very informal, but informative.
That's a great point about an NCSBN quality indicator. Thank you. I think that was Judith Peltier that wrote that. Is that right? I don't want to mess up her name.
Yes.
Judith.
Yes, it is. Amy, it's
Thank you for putting that into.
Oh yeah, no, that it's a great document, and I do know some states just take the NCSBN guidelines and adopt them as their regulations. So it's certainly a quality indicator, and although we might not be there, it's certainly something to strive for. And I think that's important, that it's a national standard, an indicator of quality. So I think you're right, that CNEA and ACEN, CCNE will be right there as well with that. And Amy, I had put in the chat, you would come to Massachusetts in May, a few years ago, when you were a speaker at our PN Educator Conference, and that was a great day. And it's lovely to see where you are at now.
Just one more thing
Thanks so much.
Oh, sorry, Amy. One more thing about the standards in different states. Washington has already adopted some. It's not going to happen, I think, till 2029. But if you're in the state of Washington, there are some new guidelines that the board has implemented. So again, just keep your ears open for your state.
And as we all move to the AACN essentials, and how are we implementing the essentials with competency-based education, simulation is coming up over and over. Kelly and I were recently on a panel, and the big push has to be quality simulation. So how can we ensure quality simulation? I just keep guiding people back to the healthcare standards of best practices, because as Amy said, as it's been mentioned before, it is evidence-based. So if the evidence is there, why aren't we using it? And really pushing that when everyone keeps saying, oh yes, we can check their competency in sim. Well, sure we can, but is it best practice? Ashley, I see your hands up. She's not driving anymore.
No, I arrived. Thank you for seeing my hand. I'll do my best to figure out how to drop it. We did a good job of kind of going around and talking about different committees and special interest groups earlier. And I just wanted to say that there's a subcommittee of the research committee that's interested in the regulations conversation. So historically, that group has been involved with surveying state boards of nursing in various jurisdictions to ask about their simulation regulation, how much good simulation is allowed to replace clinical, and whether it counted as 1-to-1 or 1-to-2. But there's a subcommittee interested in that. Reba Childress is the leader, and I can help navigate anybody to her. They try and collect data from INACSL members and or state boards of nursing to keep a pulse on what's going on, like in our regulatory body. And there's a regulatory map on the INACSL website that's fairly interactive. You can hover over your state, and there's a little kind of pop-up window that tells you what's known about regulations in that state, and even some links to documents. So I just thought everyone might think that was germane to the conversation we had.
That's great. Judith has her hand up again.
Thank you, Ashley, for that comment. And I want to thank you as well for using the word quality to describe simulation. I believe it triggered me to raise my hand when you mentioned boards of nursing. I feel oftentimes people who aren't familiar with what quality simulation is, they get stuck on the word fidelity and thinking if it's high fidelity, it therefore is quality. And if it's not done right, it's of no value. It's not quality. It's the debriefing, and I'm speaking to the experts. So I appreciate that so much. And I think that's a really important message to some of the boards of nursing, because I do know, having worked at our board of nursing for 8 years prior to my current position, there oftentimes people are making decisions who are pretty distant from what we do at the bedside, in our classrooms, and in our sims. And if it's not, every bell and whistle, and if it doesn't get up and walk itself across the room, it can't be of educational value. And I just am so pleased you used the word quality, and that's so helpful. And I think there's a big education gap there, that quality and fidelity are not equal.
Great point. I put the map in the chat, the regulation map that Ashley was talking about. And then I don't know, Colleen asked where was this located. I think you were talking about what I said about the state. Washington State was the one that's changing some of their guidelines. So I put that in there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hollis, do we want to let Amy go now?
Yeah, I was just reading the chat. I didn't see anything else in there, but Amy, I would love if you would talk a little bit about the research fellowship. That'd be great.
Sure. Thank you for asking me to talk about it and do a little mini advertisement. So the research fellowship has been in existence for quite a while. I was a research fellow, I can't even remember how many years ago it was, and probably 5 or 6. And I just learned so much about simulation research. And so the fellowship program is to provide an opportunity for people that are in the simulation world and wanting to learn more about how to do simulation research, as well as providing mentorship for people that would like to either develop a grant and put in for a grant, whether they are working on a manuscript, and really trying to guide them through what type of research they're working on or interested in, so that they can start their program of research. It meets monthly, and we have speakers each month, as well as report outs. Some of the outcomes, I think my mentee last year was able to put in for the SPUNT grant and was awarded the SPUNT grant, and now has like 3 publications from it. Not by any doing of my own, but she was very motivated, and I was just the guide by the side. And so I think the other thing to think about is, don't feel like you're not ready for it, because we're never going to feel ready for anything. And so if you're interested in a particular area in simulation and you would like to move towards research, please either email me, and I can put my email in the chat. Actually, Alyssa, would you mind putting my email in the chat, because I am on a phone and not as technologically savvy to be able to do all those things at once. Thank you, Alyssa. And so, you know, and I was a mentee 1 year, and then the next year I was asked to be a mentor. And again, didn't feel ready, but just like when you teach, you learn more than when you're being taught. When you're a mentor, you learn so much more than when you were actually the mentee. And it just helps to kind of push you along in your growth and development in research and in simulation. And I love how we've talked so much about standards of practice, because one of the things that's so important in research is when you do simulation research, you have to demonstrate that when you developed whatever your simulation was, that you use standards of best practice. Otherwise, the outcome of your research isn't going to be high quality. So, so just keeping that in mind. Some of the discussions that we have and the guest speakers that we have talk about, last time we had Cindy Bradley come and talk about ways to find grants, ways to put together grants, ways to develop grant teams so that it's not just you doing it by yourself. And I think that that's one thing that's so important in simulation research, is that we can't do it by ourselves. We really need others to help. And everybody has a strong point, and that's why the team is so important, because you use each person's strong strength. The other things, I know Ashley's going to come and talk to us tomorrow evening, and about standards and about other research outcomes. I think that we also meet during the INACSL conference, and this time we're going to actually meet in person, but we're also going to have a virtual link so that those that cannot attend the conference that were research fellows last year can join us and kind of report out on where they are with their research. That's one thing that we're trying to kind of develop and grow, is the element of reporting out of the outcomes. Generally, we end the fellowship in the past, it's been April or May, so we didn't really have a time to come together and do a full report out and or share with oncoming fellows kind of what it's like. And so this year we're going to do that so that the oncoming fellows can learn a little bit from the past fellows. Just so you know, the application period is open now. And that is on the website for you to be able to submit an application. And it is reviewed by a couple different people that are currently on the research fellowship team. And then it's, again, similar to Hollis was talking about, we use a rubric, and then we reach back out and let those know that have qualified. We also are trying to grow our mentor pool. So we're reaching out to people that want to be mentors, and we're also asking people when they apply, if they have someone that they are currently being mentored by, that they would like to grow that mentorship relationship, to please let us know, or if there's someone that they aspire to want to be mentored by, let us know that, and we can see if we can do some mentor matching that way. I think that is kind of the gist of it. We just like to help people grow in their research, and knowing that that is the research that's going to be the evidence to support best practices, that, you know, that's why it's so important, is to do sim research, but to do it really well. Anything that I missed there, either Hollis or Beth or Ashley, if you want to add anything that I may not have captured?
I just had a question, Amy. How long is the commitment for that fellowship?
1 year.
1 year.
It's for
okay.
1 year. Mm-hmm.
And is the mentorship separate or part of it? I wasn't
Part of
clear
it.
on that. Part
It's
of it.
It's all together. So
Perfect.
when you're a fellow, you are a mentee, and you are connected with a mentor, either one that you may have chosen, requested, or one that we find that has a very similar area of research interest, so that you can align and be able to be mentored by someone that's interested in what you're looking for.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
We have something in the chat. Does anyone have a good resource for NP simulations? I'm not looking for an NP, but for ideas for faculty. Yes.
What type of NP sim are you looking for? So what's happening now in that SIG that I was sharing about, that might be a good place for someone to start, because they share sims, because there's family practice, there's acute practice, all the different niches within that. So tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for, and we can help guide them. But if it were me and a faculty was on that NP scenario search, I would get them involved in the advanced practice SIG, because we have all types of specialties within there.
And as a member, it's free to join the SIGs. There used to be a charge, but it's free now. So Arlene, you can get on that link that I posted and you can join, I think, there. So that might be a great place to start, because there's OSCEs, there's acute care, like she said, there's lots of different types.
Great, thanks.
What other questions do we have? We have a few more minutes left. So I want to make sure that everybody who has a question gets to ask it and get it answered.
Brittany says, I'm the first simulation coordinator for my institution in Tennessee. Where are you in Tennessee, Brittany? You can unmute.
I am at Cumberland University in Lebanon, so I'm not you, Beth.
Yeah, that I didn't realize that was you again. I'm happy to chat with you and spend some time with you. Be happy to do that. So I'll pop my email in the chat. Why don't you, after we get back, I'm going to IMSH next week, but I'm happy to sit down with you and give you some tips. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I saw somebody's hand up.
I think it's me. I jumped on camera too. Good to see you all. It's Suzanne Campbell. So did I hear you right? There's no cost for the SIGs. Why did I think there was a cost? That must be a Canadian thing. We have to.
There used to be.
Okay. All right. I'm jumping back in the NP one. I was part of the group that started that one and I missed belonging to it, but the research team is doing such great work right now. Okay. Excited to see you all. Have fun at IMSH. I wish I weren't missing it.
So Colleen said, is there a meetup at IMSH for INACSL members? I don't think there's anything specific, but if you want, I'll put my email in there, and I know Des will be there and happy to eat a lunch with somebody. I'm pretty packed, but otherwise happy to meet up with somebody, Colleen.
Look for us a lot. I'd probably say 95% of the board members will be there. I know all of your current presidents will be there. Grab us for a coffee, even if it's a jaunt from one session to the next. Say hello. Don't be shy.
I think that's one thing too, Des. I remember your story about when you first went to, I guess it was INACSL, and you were sitting down at lunch or something, and somebody sat with you.
Martina Harris.
Yeah, Martina sat and really grabbed you. And I think that's really important. Just grab us. I hate to say this, we put our pants on just like you do every day. So we have just worked really hard, and we want to make sure that you all can. We need people to come in our footsteps, and so it's important for everybody to get involved. And we've lived the life of hard knocks, and we want to try to make it easier for some people. So.
Great. Anyone else have their hand up? I can't really see the full screen. Any other questions in the chat that we didn't get to?
Hey, Hollis.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to give a quick plug for the discussion board.
Sure.
That one of the subcommittees I'm on. So we have a pretty large discussion board, and actually I might have to have help on knowing which all the categories are. We in the membership committee we cover the education discussion board, and actually we're trying to drive more traffic to that right now. But it would be, if you belong to SSIH, then we have the capability like they do to set up notifications so that when anything's posted, that will come to your email. And so it's, again, a wealth of people to access for just, basic questions. So we hope you'll take advantage of that.
Great. Thank you, Lori.
Hollis, there's a question in the chat. Beverly said, I apologize. Is virtual sim going to take over in-person sim? And I just said, we'll hold that till our next fireside.
Yeah, that's a great conversation.
That's a great conversation for our next one.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you pay attention to the next one. It should be we're doing one every other month, I think. Is that right, Hollis?
Yes, every other month. Yep. And we really would love your ideas as well. We want to do what you want to hear. So whatever topics you're interested in, please shoot them our way, because we definitely want to hit on those. Great. So in essence of time, I think we have about 3 minutes left. I kind of want to go around and just ask all of our panel, what's one thing like that you take away from INACSL that you could either recommend to somebody, or something that, you've taken away from being a member or being involved. So kind of a little nugget of advice, if you will. So Desiree, do you want to start? I'll put you on the spot.
Sure. I think my biggest nugget of advice is don't be afraid and just reach out. I mean, Suzanne Campbell's on here. There was a time I needed a room at a conference. She's like, yeah, come stay in my, I'm like, okay. It's such a friendly environment and place. So don't be afraid. If you see someone you don't want to walk around the convention hall, grab someone, tag team the posters. Just don't be alone. Don't feel like you're by yourself.
Lori, or sorry, I got you off guard.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't know if Beth wanted to go first.
Oh.
Yeah, so I would echo that, but also I think I would say get involved in anything, maybe even something you think you're not necessarily extremely interested in, because you will learn. And so that's probably my biggest piece of advice: get involved in the committees and the SIGs. And then when those opportunities come up within the committees for those subcommittees, just jump on that. It's just, I don't know, the things that you learn just from being involved in that are just, as I said before, can't be replaced, I don't think, by anything else. So
I agree. All right, Beth, did you want to go next?
Sure. I would say go to the conference if you have the opportunity. All the stuff that Lori and Des said for sure, but the conference really opened some opportunities for you. And without crying, I will just say some of the sweet people on this call, just during my last year of family issues, my dad dying and all kinds of just hard things, there's been people that just supported me just from a friendship standpoint too. So I think that you can't ever discount that. That's really important. Okay, no tears.
No tears. Oh, Amy?
I think the one thing with regards to friendships and camaraderie, I think for me is that if I don't talk to Beth for a year, I see her again at the next conference, and it's like we were never apart. And I think that that's something to say about there's an interconnection, not just the simulation piece, but there's something about more than the simulation. And I agree, reach out. I'm a very shy person, and I know everybody's going to laugh at that, Beth and everybody else. You will not believe I'm shy, but I don't like to reach out to people. It feels awkward to me. But, just to say, I saw you at such and such, and my name is, and I would like to do something. Can you help me? And if I don't know the answer, somebody else will. But I think that it really is a place to help negate the feeling of loneliness in the simulation world, because when we're in our institutions, we do feel lonely. And we do feel like we're kind of on this little island of misfits. And but needless to say, one day we will be the world. I don't know why I said that, but it just feels like one day we'll be there. So anyway, I just think that it is a place where you don't feel lonely, you feel connected.
Yeah. Well, that's hard to follow, but I guess my nugget would just be to echo off of all of that, because it really, like, it is been a great opportunity for me to network, to find new things, and to really open myself up a little bit more and get involved and share ideas. I would strongly suggest you go to the conference if you can. It was a wealth of knowledge, not even for CEUs, but just in contact people and having fun and getting to know and spurring ideas for your future sims. It was just huge for me. So all of that wrapped into one, I would say would be great. So awesome. Well, this has been a really great first fireside chat. I hope you all enjoyed. I wish we had longer sometimes, but I think an hour is just enough time. I hope you all enjoyed getting to hear from some of us. And again, we are always here and open for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what we want you. If you got nothing else from this, is that we want to, network and join with you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I would like to have a special thank you to Desiree and Beth and Amy and Lori and Alyssa for setting this up and being our panelists today, and really kind of facilitating our informal fireside chat. I hope everybody has a great week, and until next time, stay warm. Hope you all have a great one.
Stay warm, everyone.
That's
Thank
right.
you
It's
all.
cold
Stay
up
warm and
here.
safe. Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye. We'll see you next couple months.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.